you have been lied to. Your entire life, you have been told that the economy works a certain way. You go to school, you get a job, you pay your taxes, you save your money in a bank, and eventually you retire. You follow the rules, you play the game. But what if I told you that this entire system is designed to keep you running on a hamster wheel that you can never get off? What if I told you that the money you work so hard for is dissolving in your hands, not by accident, but by design? Look around you. Everyone is in debt. Your neighbors have mortgages they will be paying off for 30 years. Your friends are drowning in student loans. Your government is currently $34 trillion in the hole. But here is the question that should keep you awake at night, the question that the media never asks and your politicians refuse to answer. If the United States is $34 trillion in debt, and Japan is $10 trillion in debt, and the European Union is trillions in debt, and the total global debt stands at a staggering $305 trillion, who exactly is the creditor? If every country on Earth is borrowing money, who are they borrowing it from? Are we in debt to Mars? Is there a bank on the moon that we don't know about? The answer is far more terrifying than aliens. The answer reveals that the money in your pocket, the digits in your bank account, and the entire structure of the global economy is a masterclass in illusion. You are walking through a fog, believing that the ground beneath you is solid, when in reality you are standing on a trap door that is being held shut by a group of unelected bureaucrats who can pull the lever at any moment. While you were sleeping, while you were distracted by social media arguments and political theater, a silent heist has been taking place. It is the greatest theft in human history, and the victim is you. Stay with me, because once you understand how the trick is performed, you will never look at a dollar bill, a bank, or a news report the same way again. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the mathematical reality of the financial prison built around you. And the scary part isn't just that the system is rigged. The scary part is that the system is reaching its mathematical limit, and what comes next will determine whether you end up a serf or a sovereign individual. Think about what you have been taught about money, the mainstream narrative, the story they feed you from the moment you are old enough to open a savings account, is that money represents value. You are told that banks are intermediaries. You believe that when you deposit $100 into your savings account, the bank takes that money and carefully lends it to someone else to buy a house or start a business. You imagine a vault somewhere where your cash sits, safe and sound, waiting for you to come back and claim it. You are told that governments borrow money just like a household does. If the government spends more than it collects in taxes, it has to borrow the difference from investors or other countries, or patriotic citizens buying bonds. This creates a comforting picture of a closed loop. Money moves from person A to person B, debts are repaid, and the economy grows. They tell you that inflation is just a natural phenomenon, like the weather, something that just happens when the economy gets too hot. They tell you that the Federal Reserve and other central banks exist to protect you, to keep prices stable, and to ensure full employment. This is the lie. This is the fairy tale they constructed to keep you docile while they strip mine your wealth. They want you to believe that debt is a necessary tool for growth, and that as long as we make the payments, everything is fine. They want you to believe that the $305 trillion of global debt is just a number that we can grow our way out of. They need you to believe this, because if you understood the alternative, if you understood the actual mechanism beneath the surface, there would be a run on the banks tomorrow morning. The education system was designed to create employees, not financiers. It was designed to teach you how to work for money, not how money works. They teach you to balance a checkbook, but they never teach you where the checkbook comes from. They teach you about supply and demand, but they never teach you who controls the supply of the currency itself. This ignorance is their greatest asset, as long as you believe that money is a physical store of value, scarce and precious. You will continue to trade hours of your life for it, unaware that they can print it by the trillions with a single keystroke. Here is the hidden truth that shatters the illusion. The money you work for does not exist until it is borrowed into existence. In our modern financial system, money is debt. They are two sides of the same coin. There is no pile of gold in Fort Knox backing your dollars. There hasn't been since 1971. When you ask who the creditor is for all this global debt, the answer is nobody. Or rather, the creditor is a system that creates the claim on wealth out of thin air. The $305 trillion of debt that the world owes was not, quote, won by anyone who had saved it up. It was typed into a computer. The creditor is the central bank, and the underscore, quote, underscore to underscore they lent didn't exist a microsecond before they signed the loan. This is the secret that the elites guard with their lives. The global banking system is a magic trick where the magician pulls a rabbit out of a hat, but the rabbit eats your vegetables. You need to understand that when the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank buys government debt, they aren't using tax dollars. They aren't using money from a savings account. They are using their administrative authority to increase the balance of the government's account to zero. They are literally creating money from nothing. This means that every dollar in your wallet is essentially a distinct share in the national debt. If all the debt in the world were paid off this afternoon, every single dollar, euro, and yen would vanish. There would be no money left. The system requires debt to function. It requires you to be in debt, your government to be in debt, and businesses to be in debt. Without debt, their money dies. This is why the debt can never be paid off. It isn't meant to be paid off. It is meant to be serviced forever by you. You are the battery that powers this machine. Your labor, your productivity, your time. That is the only real thing in this equation. They create the fake money, and you provide the real work to pay the interest on it. Let's walk through the mechanism step by step so you can see exactly how the collar is tightened around your neck. It starts with the government. Let's say the U.S. government wants to spend $1 billion on a new program, or a war, or a bailout, but they don't have the tax revenue to pay for it. Do they cut spending? Of course not. They issue a bond. A bond is just a fancy piece of paper that says, I owe you. It's a promise to pay back the money in the future, plus interest. Now, the government sells this bond. Who buys it? Often, it's the big banks, the quote 7 like J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs. But where do they get the money? Ultimately, the Federal Reserve steps in. The Fed says, quote 8, this is the moment the magic happens. The Federal Reserve does not check its bank account to see if it has $1 billion. It simply opens a spreadsheet on a computer and types in underscore underscore, quote underscore 9 underscore underscore. Boom! The money is created. They transfer this newly created digital cash to the government in exchange for the bonds. The government now has $1 billion to spend. The Federal Reserve has $1 billion in assets, the bonds, and the economy has $1 billion more in circulation. But here is the catch, and this is where you get screwed. The government has to pay that money back, plus interest. Where does the money for the interest come from? It wasn't created in the first batch. This creates a mathematical impossibility. There is always more debt owed than money in existence. To pay the interest, more money must be borrowed into existence, creating even more debt. It is a spiral that demands exponential growth just to stay alive, but it gets worse. That's just the central bank. The commercial bank on your street corner is doing the same thing through a process called, quote, 10. You think that when you deposit $100, it stays there. The law says the bank only has to keep a tiny fraction of that, usually 0 to 10%, in reserve. If you deposit $100, the bank can keep $10 and lend out $90 to your neighbor. Now you have $100 in your account, and your neighbor has $90 in his hand. There is suddenly $190 in the economy, where there was only 100 before. But wait, your neighbor takes that $90 and pays a mechanic. The mechanic deposits that $90 into his bank. His bank keeps $9 and lends out $81. This process repeats over and over again. From your initial deposit of real money, the banking system can create thousands of dollars of, quote, 11. They are charging interest on money that they created out of thin air. When you take out a mortgage to buy a house, the bank didn't give you someone else's savings. They typed numbers into your account. They created the principal. But you have to work for 30 years to pay it back, plus another huge sum in interest. You are trading your finite life energy for their infinite digital digits. You are working for something they can type. This causes the money supply to explode, and when you have more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices go up. That's inflation. It's not a mystery. It's not Putin's price hike. It's not corporate greed, although that plays a role. It is a direct result of the expansion of the money supply. Every time they print a dollar, the dollars in your pocket buy less. It is a hidden tax that no one voted for, but everyone pays. So who profits from this insanity? If the system is so broken, why do we keep it? Because for a select few, the system is working perfectly. You need to understand the cantillon effect. This is an economic concept from the 18th century that explains exactly why the rich get richer and you get poorer. When new money is created, it doesn't appear in everyone's pocket at the same time. It enters the system at a specific point. The first receivers of the new money are the government and the big banks, primary dealers. They get the money first, before prices have risen. They get to spend it at its full purchasing power. They use it to buy assets, stocks, real estate, and companies. By the time the money trickles down to you, through wages or government handouts, prices have already gone up. The inflation has already happened. The elite get the value. You get the cost. The banking sector profits immensely because they earn interest on money they created for free. The government profits because they can spend without raising taxes, which would be unpopular. They can wage endless wars and fund massive bureaucracies by simply printing the difference. The asset-holding class profits because as the money supply expands, the price of scarce assets like real estate and stocks rises. If you owned a home in 1980 and kept it until now, you look like a genius. But the house didn't get 5 times better. The house got older. The currency just lost 80% of its value. The losers in this game are the savers, the workers, the pensioners, people like you. If you put your money in a savings account, earning 0.5% interest, while real inflation is running at 7% or 10%, you are literally setting your wealth on fire. You are being punished for being responsible. The system forces you to become a gambler. You can't just save money anymore. You have to invest it in the stock market just to keep up with inflation. This funnels even more money into the financial markets, propping up the prices for the wealthy. It is a wealth transfer mechanism that moves purchasing power from the bottom and the middle directly to the top. While you struggle to buy groceries, the financial sector is recording record profits. While you worry about your rent, BlackRock is buying up neighborhoods with cheap credit that you don't have access to. It is a rigged game, and the house always wins. What is coming next should terrify you, but it should also motivate you to act. We are reaching the end of the line. The math is breaking. The global debt of $305 trillion is now over 350% of the global GDP. We have crossed the event horizon. The interest payments on the U.S. national debt alone are now over $1.1 trillion a year. That is more than the entire defense budget. It is more than what is spent on Medicare. Soon, it will be the single largest item in the budget. This creates a quote 14. The government has to borrow more money just to pay the interest on the money it already borrowed. This leads to two possible outcomes, and neither of them is pretty for the unprepared. Scenario 1 is a deflationary collapse. The weight of the debt becomes too much. Defaults cascade through the system. Banks fail and credit dries up. This is what happened in the 1930s, but the central banks have shown us that they will never allow this. They will print until the machines break to prevent a collapse. That leaves scenario 2, hyperinflationary melt-up. To keep the government solvent, the Federal Reserve will have to print trillions upon trillions of dollars to buy the debt that no one else wants. We are already seeing the beginning of this. They call it quote 15 or quote 16, but it is just currency debasement. By 2030, the dollar you hold today could be worth half of what it is now, maybe less. Imagine a world where a loaf of bread costs $20. Imagine your retirement savings, which took you 40 years to build, buying you only a few years of survival. This is the trajectory we are on. The digital currencies they are preparing, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are the final trap. If the current system collapses, they will offer you a quote 17, a programmable digital dollar directly controlled by the Fed. They will be able to dictate where you spend it, when you spend it, and if you don't behave, they can turn it off. The destruction of the current debt bubble is being used to pave the way for a system of total financial control. You are looking at the potential end of financial privacy and the birth of a surveillance economy. So, what can you do? You feel small. You feel like a pawn. But you have moves you can make. The first step is to opt out of the delusion. Stop viewing cash as wealth. Cash is a melting ice cube. It is designed to lose value. Do not hold large amounts of fiat currency in a bank account. You are lending your money to an institution that uses it to enrich themselves while paying you crumbs. You need to convert your melting fiat currency into hard assets, assets that cannot be printed. Look at history. What survives when currencies die? Real things, land, real estate, precious metals like gold and silver. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. In 1971, gold was $35 an ounce. Today, it is over $2,000. Gold didn't change. The dollar died. By holding gold, you aren't trying to get rich. You are trying to not get poor. You are freezing your purchasing power in time. And then there is the digital lifeboat, Bitcoin. You need to understand why the banks hate it. Bitcoin is the only asset in the known universe with a mathematically fixed supply. There will only ever be 21 million. No government can print more. No central bank can debase it. It is the anti-fiat. While they print trillions of dollars diluting your work, Bitcoin remains constant. It is an exit hatch from the corrupt banking system. You don't have to buy a whole coin. You can buy a fraction. But getting off zero is the most important insurance policy you can have in the 21st century. Educate yourself on the difference between the official Consumer Price Index, CPI, and real inflation. The government manipulates the numbers to make things look better than they are. Look at shadow stats. Look at the price of steak, of gas, of housing. Trust your eyes, not their data. Learn a skill that is valuable in any economy. Become a producer, not just a consumer. Reduce your dependence on their debt. Pay off your variable rate debts as fast as you can, because when rates rise, they will eat you alive. But if you have fixed rate debt like a mortgage, you are actually winning because you are paying back the bank with cheaper inflated dollars. Understand the game so you can play it instead of being played by it. This is your final warning. The system depends on your ignorance. It depends on you thinking that quote, _19 and leaving it to the experts. The experts are the ones who engineered the crash of 2008. The experts are the ones who told you inflation was quote, _20 The experts are the ones selling you down the river. The financial tectonic plates are shifting. The era of easy money is over, and the era of consequences has begun. They are counting on you to do nothing. They are counting on you to keep swiping your card, watching your sports, and paying your minimums. Do not give them the satisfaction. Take control of your financial destiny. Diversify out of the dollar. Question every narrative they spin. Share this information with everyone you know, because the only way we break their grip is if enough people wake up to the truth. The global debt is a lie. The creditor is a phantom. But the consequences for you and your family are very, very real. The clock is ticking. What you do in the next few months could define the next decade of your life. Don't let them win. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It presents alternative economic perspectives and should not be considered financial advice. Always do your own research and consult qualified professionals before making financial decisions. The views expressed are analysis of economic systems and mechanisms, not recommendations.